there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm going to be doing my wrap up for Thriller-a-thon. I did end up completing all 6 challenges and I read another 3 books this week, so I ended up reading 9 books, which is crazy. I will first go over the books that I didn't read for the Thriller-a-thon, and then I will go over the 6 books that I did read for the readathon. So yeah, I'm going to hop right into it. So one of the ones I didn't read for the readathon is The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer. And this is a World War II historical fiction. I read two other books by Kelly Rimmer, and they were a different genre, each one of them. So this is a first for her, I believe, writing historical fiction. And it is about 2 women, Alina and Alice. Alice is actually Alina's granddaughter. So Alice is a mother. Her son is special needs. Her older daughter is really intellectually gifted. And then her husband is very wrapped up in work, so he doesn't really help her with their special needs child, and she's pretty overwhelmed. And her grandmother had a stroke and she's in the hospital and can't really communicate properly, but she's figured out that her grandmother wants her to go back to Poland to sort some things out for her, even though she's not 100% sure what that is. That is where her grandmother is from, and her grandmother is the other person in the story named Alina, that when she was a teenager, her fiance Tomas went away to medical school, and right after he left, World War II broke out. The Nazis invaded their small town in southern Poland, and she was always wondering what happened to her fiance, and she had to deal with their occupation there and her brothers going away to work camps. And it is kind of their story, her and Tomas, their love story, and what they went through to be together. This is a super heartbreaking story. It made me bawl my eyes out at the end, and I think anything Kelly Rimmer writes is phenomenal. And this is one of my favorite World War II fiction books. It's right up there with like The Nightingale and some of my other favorites. So I gave this one 5 stars. And it either comes out in March or April. I'm not exactly sure. And then another one I read that was also emotional was The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. This is my first Rebecca Yarros read, and I had heard about it from Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand. And it is about 2 friends named Ryan and Beckett. They are both in the army together. They've been in for about 10 years and they are overseas together. Ryan has a younger sister back home and Beckett has no one. So Ryan thinks that Beckett needs company, so he recommends that him and his younger sister Ella form a like pen pal writing situation, and Beckett uses his like nickname instead of his real name so she won't know who he is, and they strike up this relationship over letters and strike up feelings for each other without actually having met. And Ella, she has twin son and daughter, Maisie and Colt. They're like 6 years old, and she has no dad of theirs in the picture. He left her when he found out she was having twins, and so she's a single mom. She owns a B&B by herself, and Maisie has just been diagnosed with a rare form of pediatric cancer, so her hands are full. And then to add to it, Ryan dies, and in his last letter he asks that Beckett goes to his hometown and takes care of Ella even if she refuses it. So he does what he says, but Ella has no idea that Beckett is the man she's been talking to on the letters, and so she kind of doesn't want him there, but then eventually like welcomes his help and lets him in. But the relationship is based upon a lie that he's the guy from the letters. So it's very heartbreaking, very emotional, but I loved this story and I'd love to read more by Rebecca Yarros. It is not very heavy on the military aspect, so if that's not your thing, it's not a lot about that. It's more about more hard-hitting stuff with the cancer and hometown and things like that. And I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it comes out I believe the 26th of February, so just this upcoming week. And then the last one I read that wasn't for the readathon is Whiskey Lullaby by Stevie J. Cole. I've never read anything by her before. It is about 2 people named Hannah and Noah. And Hannah is the preacher's daughter. She's a really good girl. Noah is the town's bad boy and always getting in trouble, gets arrested. Everyone just knows he's a bad boy. And it's their romance. They kind of meet each other. They have this whirlwind romance, and then you know that they get torn apart and you're wondering why. And now it's a year later and they're kind of brought back together. So it's a really cute romance. I gave this one 4 stars, and I'd love to read more by Stevie J. Cole. And then now to get on to the Thriller-a-thon. For the challenge of something that has been on my TBR the longest, I read A Stranger in the House by Shari LaPena. This one is really good. It's my last Shari LaPena that I had left to read. So I'm going to make a whole video on her books if you would be interested in seeing that. But this is about a married couple named Karen and Tom. And they've been married a couple of years. Tom comes home one night from work kind of late, and Karen isn't there, and she normally is. The front door is unlocked, her car is gone, but her personal belongings like her phone and her wallet and purse and stuff are still at the house. Dinner was like partially made and no note was left for him. So where is Karen? Well, it turns out she'd been in a one-car accident. She like ran into like a telephone pole or something, and she has no recollection of that night or of the accident. And they are facing some charges for her getting in that reckless driving accident. But they think that's the end of it. But there's DNA evidence that she was at the scene of a crime before then, that same night, and a man was murdered. So he's kind of wondering, Tom is wondering, who did I marry, and is Karen to be trusted? And is she really not remembering what happened that night? And this one was definitely like a domestic thriller. You don't know who you can trust. There's some twists and turns, and I really enjoy her books. They're fun, and I gave this one 4 stars. And then the second challenge was to read an author you've read before, or read a book you've read before, so like giving a second chance. And for that, I read a Megan Miranda book because I read All the Missing Girls back in 2016. And so for this one, I read The Last House Guest, which comes out, I believe, in like May, but I'm not 100% positive. And this one was really good. It was about 2 best friends, Avery and Sadie. 10 years ago they met. They're from completely different sides of things. Avery is like a local to this coastal town, whereas Sadie, her parents are rich and they are only there usually in the summers. Well, Avery is working at one of Sadie's family's parties. They meet and they become instant best friends, and for 10 years they are just intertwined in each other's life. And Sadie's family took Avery in, gave her a job, everything. So they really are heavily reliant on one another. And then a year ago, Sadie died the night of this big party they had, and no one ever understood what happened. They ruled it a suicide, but Avery thought that couldn't be true. She didn't know why she would have killed herself. And now it's a year later, there's a memorial going on for Sadie, and it's just bringing back all the memories of that summer. And so you're seeing dual timelines of what happened that summer and what is happening currently. And it's just this amazing, twisty read, and I thoroughly enjoy her writing. I was worried I wouldn't like it as much as All the Missing Girls, and I did. I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then for a attractive or pretty cover, I chose The Au Pair by Emma Roos. And I've heard some mixed things about this, and I thought it was okay. This is about 3 siblings, Seraphine, Danny, and Edwin. So Danny and Seraphine are twins, and Edwin is their older brother. Well, their father just passed away, and their mother had already killed herself the day that Seraphine and Danny was born. So their dad was their last parent alive, and he died. So they're going through his things, and they had never known much about their upbringing and the day that their mother killed herself. And so Seraphine found a photograph of her parents, 1 baby, and Edwin. And she's wondering, where's the second baby, and why wasn't the second baby in the photo? And then someone says that the nanny had taken the photo. Her name is Laura, and she quit right after their birth. And she's wondering, why did she leave? Maybe because the mom killed herself. So she is determined to find Laura and get answers. Well, while she's doing that and trying to get answers for what happened surrounding their birth and everything, you are seeing a story of Laura being employed by Seraphine's parents, taking care of Edwin this whole summer and upcoming year that she was with them, and like what led to her leaving. And it was I really liked that part of the story. I didn't really like Seraphine. I didn't care about her, and I didn't care about her story, but I really liked Laura's story. So for that reason, I gave it like 3.5 stars. But if it was just Seraphine's story, it would have been much lower. I wish it was more about Laura because that's the person I cared about. So it was good, but not my favorite, that's for sure. And then after that, for my most anticipated read, I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, or Michaelides, I'm not really sure how you say that. And this one just came out at the beginning of February, and I've heard great things about it, and oh my goodness, I loved this. So this is about a woman named Alicia, and 6 years ago she killed her husband, and when the police came to arrest her, she never spoke, and she hasn't spoken for 6 years, and she's been in a mental institution ever since. And so it's about her as well as this guy named Theo. He's a psychologist, and he is very interested in Alicia's case, and he takes a job at her psych ward to get to know her and try to help her and get her to speak. And so he starts working there and getting involved in her case, and he gets kind of obsessive, and meanwhile his own personal life is unraveling, and he gets a little too attached to Alicia and trying to fix her. And this was crazy. I thought it was really good, and then like the last 50 pages I was like, what the F, this is so good. So I already thought it was an amazing book, but then I was thrown for a complete loop toward the end, and yeah, I just thought this was amazing and totally worth all the hype. I gave it 5 stars, and just this was a total mind F, that's for sure. And then for recently added to my TBR, I did Stolen Things by R.H. Herron. I got this as an e-arc, and I never heard of this author. I guess it's her first novel she released, and it takes place in Northern California, kind of where I live, so I was really excited to read it because there's some references in it that I recognized, but unfortunately this book was a huge letdown. It is about a mother and daughter. So Lori, she is a 911 dispatcher, and her husband is the chief of police. And one night, her worst nightmare happens. She gets a call on the 911 line from her daughter, JoJo, who's 16, and she doesn't know where she is. She feels like she might have been raped, and she just wants help. And so they somehow figure out where she is, and the husband, the chief of police, finds her and tries to get her the help that she needs. And in that same house, they find her friend, who is a pro football player, as well as a dead body. And basically they arrest the friend, they get the body, and her friend that she'd been hanging out with, a girl named Harper, is missing. So now they're also trying to figure out where this Harper is, who could have raped JoJo, who could have killed that man, and is her NFL friend innocent. And it is kind of going back and forth between JoJo and Lori, and they discover some things about the police department that are incriminating, and they don't know who they can trust. And I felt this was a huge letdown because you can tell what the author's opinions are, and it is very current for this kind of what's going on socially and politically. But you can definitely tell what the author's opinions were, and she made it really known, and I felt like her opinions were just being forced upon me, and I didn't get to make my own opinions. And I just felt like it said a lot about like society right now and just what her opinions on it are. So for that, it wasn't really a favorite for me, and I don't think I'll read anything else by this author because I have a feeling that this author would be the same in all of their books. So I gave this one 2.5 stars, but that is a little generous. And then for the last book, it is something that was recommended to me, and I chose The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. It wasn't directly recommended to me, but I had seen some of my Goodreads friends review it, and so I consider that a recommendation. And I recently picked this up at Half Price Books, and I was really excited because I've been seeing a lot of people read this. And this was J.P. Delaney's premiere novel, and it follows 2 women, then and now, and you know that it's from 2 timelines. So the then was Emma and now is Jane, and they are both women who rented the same house / apartment. I think it's a small home, and it is a very weird apartment, and it is really pretty architecturally, but it's super minimalism, and to live there you have to abide by like hundreds of rules, and the architect's name is Edward. Well, then Emma and her boyfriend moved in after their apartment had a burglary, and so they moved into this apartment, and then Emma and Edward start this romance together, this love affair, and she realizes just how all-consuming Edward is and how controlling he is. And then now Jane, she had a stillborn baby, and so she needed a new place to live that didn't remind her of all the things she got for that baby, so she moved into this apartment house, and she too starts a love affair with Edward, and she learns that she looks just like Emma and that Emma had died in that very house. So she's pretty creeped out. She continues this romantic relationship with Edward, and you know it cannot end well for either of these women. So this was pretty good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I felt it was slow even though it was a rather short book, but I'm really interested to read more by J.P. Delaney because I feel like their writing is really good. I just thought this one was a little on the slow side. So those are all the books that I read for the week, including Thriller-a-thon. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you read for Thriller-a-thon, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.